Hi, and welcome to everyone to this microbit webinar in preparation for the Hour of Code. My name is Maggie Carrier, and I will be your host for today's webinar. And today we will look at what is a microbit and what we can do with it. So before we start, I just want to tell you that I am not alone. I'm with my colleague, JD Theriault, and he will be managing the chat space because as you can see, there is a space for the chat section, and in this section, you will be able to write all your questions. The webinar will be divided in 4, and every time we finish an activity, we'll take a few minutes to take the questions. So don't hesitate. If you have anything that comes up to mind, just write your name on the chat and your location, and we'll go through it after each section. So today we are joined with Huyana, Heather, Jane, Jean-Anne, Jennifer, Vanessa, Joy, Tessa, Cheryl, and Shelly. So again, welcome to this webinar. So my first question is, what is a microbit? I will show you mine that I have right here. So this is the microbit. Basically, the microbit is a microcomputer. So it's a tiny computer board, which is fairly small but quite powerful. The microbit contains 2 ports. So you have one port for your USB cable right here, and it's the silver port because the USB cable is also silver. There's the white port, which is for the battery pack, because as you might know, the microbit is dependent on electricity. So you absolutely need to use it either with your USB cable connected to your computer or your battery pack, which makes the microbit totally independent, and you can walk around with it and do fun things. So I'll plug it. I plug my battery pack back to the microbit. And I will go on with my description. So on the microbit, as you can see, there are 2 buttons in the front. So you have the A button and the B button. A lot of our students are gamers, so they will recognize these buttons as trigger buttons because we will use them to activate or generate animation or images or strings of words. Whatever you program, these buttons will be used to start your code. And also, there's a 3rd button in the back, which is the reset button right here. So as the name says it, this button resets your animation or whatever you programmed onto your microbit. Today we'll be focusing on the animation abilities of the microbit. So all of this is generated by the LEDs on the microbit. There are 25 LEDs, which means light, and those lights can be used to generate images or animation, as you will see when I press the B button. So when I press the B button, you saw a number. The number was 11. I will press it again. And now I have number 9. Because what I did is I programmed my B button to be my student picker. As you may know, in the classrooms, we usually use numbers for our students. So basically, if you have a task to give to the students, or you want to form teams, or you want to choose randomly a student to answer a question, you can program very easily the student picker to have automatic numbers generated through your microbit. So as I press again, I have number 5. What I did here is I've programmed it to generate random numbers from 1 to 20. So these numbers you can change if you have a smaller group or a bigger one. Now, another type of lighting or images that you can generate with your microbit is this type of image. Very simple image. It's a smiley face that I programmed onto my button A. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the platform that we're using to program the microbit, and we'll go through how I program my button A and my button B. So let's take a look at the platform. As you can see here, I am on the MakeCode website. This website was designed by Microsoft, and the URL is makecode.microbit.org. This is the home page right here. Let me re-click on microbit because I'm one step ahead. I'm actually in the new project section. But here, this is the home page of the MakeCode platform. And as you can see, it contains tons of projects that lead you step by step to how to build these projects. Some are very simple, some are more sophisticated, but you will see that as you experience with the microbit, you will find it easier and easier with time to use it and build the projects that you have in mind, because the microbit allows you to use creativity, and this is what we'll see today with our Christmas animation that we'll build in preparation for the hour of code. So now, when you're on the home page of the MakeCode website, you have to go in the purple plus sign so to have access to your project page. The project page is divided in 3. On your left, you see the simulator. So this is a pretty cool feature on this website, because it means that you don't actually need the physical microbit to see the final result of what you're programming. So basically, the simulator is a virtual copy of your microbit. It has a stop and play button here which will act as a reset button. You have also your refresh button here, which will also act like a reset button. And so this simulator can be used to see live what you're coding, and it's a pretty cool feature I find on this website. In the center, there are all of the sections that we'll be using, or we won't be using all of them, but in these sections, you can find the blocks with which you will program the microbit, because with this tool, we are learning about computer programming, and the language we're using is block programming. So we are building a kind of puzzle to solve a problem, because you will see the blocks go into each other like puzzle pieces. So basically, we're building a puzzle to solve a problem, which is, the project that we have in mind. So now, what we'll do is we'll look at what blocks I used in my script on the right part. This is the script. This is where we're writing our programming. So we'll look at how I program my A and my B button that we saw just earlier. So when you start a project on the MakeCode page, you always have those 2 blocks, which are on start and forever. So these blocks are automatically included on your script. They basically mean that when you put your code in here, in between the 2 lines here on start, your program will be triggered right away. So it basically, as it says on start, when it will be downloaded, the action will start. While with the forever block, this is an eternal loop. So if you want your program to go on forever, this is the block that you will need. Now, right now, for my A and B button, we don't need these blocks, so I will get rid of them. And as you see, I drag them into the middle section, and there's a bin appearing. So that means it erases the blocks. You can also right-click and select Delete Block to get rid of the unstart block. So now, let's look at what input I've used to trigger my actions. So this is in the input section. As you can see, the first block is on button A pressed. So I will need that block. If you find that the block is too small, don't hesitate to use the zoom in or zoom out to change the dimension of the block. So let's say I zoom in, my block will appear bigger, which makes it clearer. So when I press button A, I will remind you what happened just earlier. So this is what appears on my microbit. This is the smiley face. So basically what I did is I went to the basics section of the Make Code platform and I used the second block, which is called Show LEDs. This block is pretty cool because you can plot the lights individually to create the image that you want. So as you see, I am selecting each light by pressing the squares and they light up. And to see what the result is, I go back to my simulator and I do what my block says. So on button A pressed, I press it and then you see that the lights are on, the one that I selected. So it's very important to use the simulator as you build your project because it really helps you build what you had in mind from the start. So now that's my button A, but I also had another trigger button that include my my second coding, which was my student picker. When you're on the Make Code platform, sometimes the block include a little white triangle. If there is such a triangle, it means that you have access to a menu. So here you can select button A, button B, and also button A and B because you can press them simultaneously and it will trigger another action. Because remember, the microbit can be triggered in many ways, but those buttons, they're like the classic way to trigger different actions. So here I have my button B, and as you might remember, my button B was my student picker, so I pressed it and it generated a random number. Here we have number 3, here we have number 7. As I mentioned, I chose to generate random numbers from 1 to 20. So to do so, I will go back to my basics section and I will add the first block, which is show number. If I press B, it will indeed show a number. It will be 0 because my variable is 0 here. Every time you have an information in the white space, it means that you can change it. So here I can either write 5, and if I press B, you see that you have 5 in the microbit. Oh, you know what? I actually realized that, no, it's fine. Nothing is, I thought I made a mistake, but no. Actually, what I mentioned is that it generated random numbers from 1 to 20. So I will go to my math section and, oh, I'm sorry. Now I know what's going on. I need to go back to my screen so that you see where I am. I'm sorry about that. So again, I am in my math section and I am choosing the block called pick random. It's right here. And as you see, these numbers are in a white section, so it means they are variables that I can change. So here I'm going to write from 1 to 20, and now my student picker is done. And this is the type of thing that you can do in advance and have it and then tag it as I did here. So you can label your microbit and use them whenever you want. So just plug the battery back and have an additional tool to your classroom management. So now that you know the basic principle of the microbit, we'll go back to the screen and we'll do our first activity, which is called My First Christmas Animation, and it will be a snowflake, what we'll want to do is create a small animation that looks a little bit like the flip book, like a flip book. So we will go frame by frame to create a snowfall that is falling from the sky. And to do so, we'll need to go through 3 different sections here. So we'll need the basic section, the input section, and the loop section. So as you know, the loop is a synonym for repetition. So we'll want to see the snowflake falling again and again and again. So I will start now, and I will erase my student picker and my smiley buttons like this. And if you want to keep them, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that you can actually save your coding. So here at the bottom in the center, you can name your project, and you can actually save your project onto your computer. We'll see in about 10 minutes how to get this file onto your microbit. So this is going to be part of the 3rd section of this webinar, how to download our animation onto the microbit. So now that I've saved my student picker, I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to start my first Christmas animation. So as I said, we'll need a trigger to have the snowflake start falling. So I will go in my input section, and I will be using the A button. So when I will press the A button, my snowflake will be triggered. So it will start falling. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my animation frame by frame. Like I said, when you work with the microbit, it's good to remember that each step counts. So here I'm working in small increments, and just as a flipbook, I am building some sort of story, and this is the story of a snowflake falling from the sky. So it's coming in the frame, and now if I right click, I'm going to duplicate the frame, and I'm continuing the animation. So now the snowflake is in my frame. I need to continue its movement. And as you know, when a snowflake falls, there's the wind, so it moves around. So here I have my second snowflake, and then I'm gonna have the snowflake disappear once again into the wind. So I'm going to place it here, and it's almost gone. Now, let's test those 3 frames a little bit like a flipbook again. As I mentioned, I'm going to press A, and you see the snowflake is moving. To make it more realistic, I'm actually going to have it disappear altogether. So I'm going to right click again, duplicate the frame, and I'm going to unplot those LEDs to make it disappear. So let's see how it looks like. I'm going to refresh my microbit, and I'm going to repress A. There's my snowflake. And now I don't want to press A over and over again. So this is where the loop is going to come in handy. I'm going to select the first block in the loop section, which can be read, repeat 4 times, do. So I want this block to control my animation. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up again. I'm actually going to zoom out. My blocks were quite big. So I'm going to grab my repeat block, my loop block, and I'm going to place it in the corner right here so that all the frames is being contained in this new block, which means these frames will be repeated 4 times when I press A. So let's look at it. Here it is. My snowflake is falling. This is your first LED animation. And I would like to take a few minutes for you to tinker and maybe add a couple frames. I remind you that we have the space, the chat section for those who have questions. So please do not hesitate to write your questions. We'll take 2 minutes. So now it is 2:20, and at 2:22 we'll start again with the downloading phase. Okay, so welcome back. I hope your snowflakes are falling well. So, as you can see here, what I did is I already downloaded my Snowflake onto my microbit, and I actually labeled the battery pack Snowflake. So when I press A, you see that my snowflake is falling from the sky repeatedly, and this is what we were aiming for as a first animation. Something simple, but fun, like a flip book. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the download, because as you see on the make code page, there's a big download button, but it is not as simple as this. You cannot just simply click the download and have everything on the microbit. So first, what you need to do is you need to connect your microbit onto your computer. So please make sure that the USB cable is connected to your computer. I will do that now. Okay, good. So now that your microbit is connected, what you need to do is, as I did in the first activity, you need to name it. So what I'll do is I'll call this file Snowflake. And the next step is to click on the floppy disk. And as you can see, when I'm on this button, the word save appears. So this will save your file on your computer. And it will be a hex file. So as a MP3 file or a doc file, the microbit code will be in a hex format. So now I will press my floppy disk. And you will see that at the bottom, my file appears right here. And what I want to do now is press the little arrow. It looks like a little triangle. As I said, when you have this type of shape or a white triangle, it means that you have access to a menu. And this is what will happen when I will press the arrow. So I have 3 options: open, always open, and show in Finder. I will select show in Finder. And now, I already have a copy of the Snowflake because I tested out just before the webinar, but you can also see my student picker here. And as I pressed twice on my microbit Snowflake file, there's a second one that was created, which you can see here. It's numbered number 1. Your student actually might press the floppy disk many times, and they should know that if they have copies of a file, it will automatically be numbered, and the highest number is usually the most recent version. So now what I will do is, since I selected show in folder, it is already highlighted. The version that I wanted is highlighted in blue here. So what I will want to do is drag this file onto the microbit. So basically, the downloading procedure when you're using MakeCode is in 2 phases. You first download what you've programmed on MakeCode on your computer, and then you download it onto your microbit. And when it's downloading, this yellow light is blinking. Okay, so know that this is totally normal. And I should note also that the microbit has only the memory of 1 project. So if you have 1 project on your microbit right now, it will be erased and will be replaced by your Snowflake animation. So now if I press my A button, again, my downloading worked. You have the Snowflake falling. And this was your first microbit animation. So time for questions. Anyone? You can use the chat room. Please state your name and location, and don't hesitate to ask us any questions. JD is there managing the chat space. All right, so now that you know not only the basic principles of how the microbit works, but you also know how to proceed to how to download your projects on the microbit, we will go through the Hour of Code project, which is to build a snow globe. So I'm going to show you the final project. Oh, and before that, I forgot to mention, on the MakeCode website, there is a section that explains how to proceed to the downloading, how to do the downloading in various browsers. So let's say you're using Safari or Chrome or Firefox, and you find that the steps that I've given you are not the same exactly with your browser. You can go on the website, and actually, JD, if you could please add the link to the chat. Oh, I am just being told that it's already being sent. So please make sure that you know how to proceed, how to do the downloading with the browser that you're using, because transferring your program to the microbit is as simple as saving a file to a drive on your computer. But with different browsers, you have some different steps. So we just want to make sure that you feel comfortable doing it. So now it is time for the Hour of Code project. So let me show you the overall finished project, which is right here. And what I will do is I will grab the battery pack from my Snowflake, and I will plug it here. There you go. So, not Snowflake, Snow Globe. So here you see that there is the shape of my snow globe, and when I shake, it's really hard to see with the webcam. I'm not sure if you're actually seeing it. Can you see the twinkling snow in the snow globe? Oh, it's pretty hard to see, but with the simulator, it will be easier to see. So see what I did. I shook the microbit. There is the shape of the snow globe on it that stays there. And there's also snow inside the globe, just blinking inside. You kind of saw it well just earlier. So this is an LED snow globe, and this is what you're going to build with your student. So what we'll do in this activity is experimenting with plotting the LED on the microbit using coordinates. So we will use an X and Y block that will help us control each LED individually. So now that we know that, we'll go back to the screen. The Snowflake codes are on my computer because I've downloaded them on my microbit, so I can erase them safely. So that's what I will do. I will drag them in the center and erase them. So now that we know what we're doing, let's tinker a little bit and we'll go step by step and build our snow globe. So the first thing that we should do is build the shape of our snow globe, because as soon as we start the project, we want that shape to appear. So remember the two blocks that were there at the beginning when we started? There was a block called on start, and this is the block that we'll be using to help us get the shape of the snow globe. I'll zoom in a little bit, and I will remind you that this block is in the basic section. And if at any moment you do not know where to find the blocks, I would like you to notice that all the sections are color-coded. So let's say this is a blue block. You know that the basic section is in blue, so you know that this block will be in this section, just to help you out visually. So now, how to build my the shape of my snow globe is pretty easy, because we've seen that we could actually select all the LEDs by plotting them. So here is what I will do now. I will plot the light that will form my snow globe shape. Like this, and like this. It's not a perfect circle, but you can see on my simulator that it represents the actual snow globe. Now that I have my snow globe made, what I will do is I will want to add some snow in it. Now I will switch back to my microbit webcam because, and I will move this, I want you to notice something. Here you go. The microbit itself, we can create image. We can generate image by using the Show LEDs panel, the blue block that we've been using since the beginning. But we can also control each LED different individually. And this chart represents all the LEDs. And the LEDs all have little codes in them, and the codes are actual coordinates from 0 to 4, which represents the 25 LEDs. Each square is an LED here. Here I have my X and I have my Y. So both axes are here. And basically what I can do is say, hey microbit, can you turn on 0, 0? So I always start with X and then give the Y. So the 0, 0 is here. So this light would be on. If I say, hey microbit, how about the light at 2, 2? So the 2, 2, 2, 2 is right here. And now that we know that the shape of our globe is blocking these LEDs. I'm doing it on pen and paper, just so that you understand visually that this chart is actually using the same principle as Battleship. And this is a fun game to practice the coordinate also. So let's say I'm hiding a ship, LED ship in my grid that has this shape. I could ask the student, okay, students, can you give me coordinates? And let's find the ship that is hidden in my grid. I just wanted to let you know that it's a really fun thing to do with the students. They usually love to do this game, and it's an unplugged game. So with computer programming, you need to remember that it's fun to balance activities out. So you can have plugged activities with the computers, but you can also have a variety of unplugged activities. So now, this is my snow globe, and I need to add snow in there. So basically, all the coordinates that I can use are 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, right here. I can also add snow in 1, 2, 2, 2, and 3, 2. And finally, the last line here, 1, 3, 2, 3, and 3, 3. So these are the coordinates that I can use to add snow in my snow globe. Now, that being said, let's look at how we can program this. I will get rid of my paper, and I will go back to the screen. So my shape is here, and remember what I did to get the snow to appear in the snow globe? What I did is I shook the microbit. So in my input section, there is another trigger button here that is called unshake. And that's what I'll add to my script. And remember, the little triangle means you have access to a menu. So let's look at what the menu is. So here you can see all the physical ways that the microbit can be triggered. So you can shake it, you can put the logo up or the logo down, the screen up or the screen down. You can tilt it, you can even throw it in the air, and the free fall will trigger an action. So basically there are many ways to trigger the microbit. You don't have to use all the time button A and button B, which are really practical, but know that you can program your microbit in a variety of ways. So when I shook my microbit, the snow appeared. So this is where we're going to use the LED section to select individually our lights that we want to blink. So here, as I'm using the trigger on shake, you see that there's something that appeared on my microbit. It says shake, so I can press it. Oh, and look here, the 0, 0 is on, but it's kind of weird though, because this should be a snowflake and it should be in my snow globe. So remember, we saw previously all the coordinates that we could use for this activity. So it starts at 1, 1. So here the 0 is in a white space, so it means I can modify it. So I will add 1, 1. So X1, Y1, and now I'm going to shake it. Boop. And this is my little snowflake. But I do not want the snowflake to be on all the time. I want it to twinkle. So I need a block that does the opposite of plotting, which means selects it or turn it on. I want an unplot block. And I will place it here, change my variable. And now shake it. It doesn't do nothing. That is so weird. If you're seeing something happening right now, there might be a problem with your code. Because basically, it does plot and unplot my light, but it does it at a really, really high speed, because here we're talking computer versus human. So we don't actually see what's going on. But if we're using the snail here, which is my slow mode, you can see here slow-mo. So I'm going to use the snail and I'm going to shake it to see what's going on. Oh, did you see that? Watch the simulator. It does plot and unplot my light, but when I turn off the slow-mo and I shake, I don't see it because it does it too quickly. So for those who are familiar perhaps with Scratch, another really cool platform that you can use to learn about computer programming, you might be familiar with a block called pause, because here we need a pause between our plot and unplot block to actually see the light on and off. And the pause block is in the basic section. So I'm gonna go lower right here, and I'm going to grab my pause. And now if I shake it, and by the way, you can also shake it like this to make it happen. So I don't know if you see, but it actually does the same thing as pressing the shake here. So if I press shake, you see that my 1-1 is on and off. And if I shake like this, it also triggers the action. This is why the simulator is so cool. So now there's just one snowflake. So I could go on and add a plot and a pause and an unplot. But what we want to avoid is a long string of blocks that is eternal. We want our code to be readable and efficient. So instead of copying the same code in your program to create each snowflake, you can simply create a function. And all the code inside this will be used as a single block. Let's check out how function works. So first of all, the functions are hidden in the advanced section right here. So if you click on the little arrow, you will have access to your functions. So as I said, we will be using the functions to make our code more readable. So let's start. I'm going to make my first function. I'm going to call it Snowflake1. Press OK. And then here you see that a new block has been created. It's called Snowflake1. What I will do is I will take what's in my onShake and I will put it, I'm grabbing the top block here, I will add it to the function. So this defines the first function. So what I will do is I will call this function when I shake my microbit. And how to do that is to go back in the function and actually call my snowflake number 1. So see, in shake, instead of having many blocks, I only have one, and it's called call function snowflake1. So if I shake, there's still my snowflake that is twinkling in the corner of 1-1. And what's cool about the function block is that when you duplicate it, it automatically creates a second function. So let's duplicate it by pressing right click. I'm going to select duplicate. And then you see that I already have snowflake number 2. I didn't even write it. It's automatic. The only thing that I need to change now is my coordinates. So I'm going to plot 2-2. And we'll see what it does. I will add my snowflake number 2 in my shake. So I'm going back to the function and I'm going to call my second function. And going back to the simulator, I shake. Oh, do you see? Here I have 2 snowflakes. So again, as I mentioned, I'm tinkering here and I'm building my project step by step with the final version in my mind, because you saw the final version and you know what you're aiming at. So you can build step by step. And again, the only thing that is that you need to add is more snow in your snow globe. I'm going to do a third one. I'm going to duplicate, and then I'll get a third snowflake. And if you feel like your script is too packed, I repeat that you can use the zoom to have access to all your little groups of blocks. So here I'm going to use, let's say, I'm going to randomly choose 1-3 because I know all the coordinates that I have access to, because I did the exercise just earlier on my paper. So I'm going to call the third function. And now I will shake it. So see, this is the start of a great snow globe. What I did is I built it step by step, and I only duplicated the function to add more snow. And this is what you can do. There's no limit to how many snowflake you can put in, though I would recommend to, have a maximum of 6 with your students maybe. But the effect without light in the room is awesome. So this is it for the hour of code activity that you'll be doing starting from December 3rd to December 9th. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to connect with JD on the chat room. And I hope you did enjoy this webinar as much as I did. I think this is just really a great way to introduce the microbit in your classroom, and so far so good. I've been testing them in classes all over Montreal since the past 2 months, and the reception from the students and also the teacher has been fantastic. So I strongly encourage you to explore the platform, make code. It includes tons of cool projects, and you'll be able to do as much as science project, and there are even projects for the physical education teachers. So there are many things to do with such a little computer board. So now I would encourage you to also visit our website to obtain more information on the hour of code. And also you can find more activities in your PDF package that you've received, where you'll find additional animation cards and ideas for activities to do during the hour of code. And if you do any activities with them, please tweet us at Kids Coding or send it to us on our website at kidscodejeunesse.org. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to see your students in action. And finally, I would like to thank all of those involved in the making of this webinar, starting with Juliet Waters, Senior Director of Education, Mike Dirt, Director of Education and Development, Brie LeBlanc, Communication and Brand Manager, and last but not least, my dear colleague, Jean-Denis Thériault, Lead Instructor. I am Maggie Carrier, and once again, I would like to thank you for joining us in this webinar, and we'll stick around for the 10 next minute just to see if you have more questions. But again, thank you so much.